Hi, my name is Shannon, this is the Vocal Podcast, and thank you for tuning in. So you guys haven't seen me here for a couple of weeks. Literally, I've just been trying to get things on track with this kind of quarantine uncertainty. I kind of took a bit of a break just to reevaluate and adjust to just really what's going on now. So yeah, but I'm back now, planning to do this like every week. So I hope you guys stay tuned. So this whole pandemic has made us face something that we haven't had to face in almost 100 years. This kind of uncertainty kind of made me question like what it meant to be alone and what it meant to be isolated. It almost, because I was stuck in Swansea and I didn't have anyone around me. My housemate had gone because she could drive home and I was too scared to kind of, use public transport. So I was faced with the challenge of having to ask myself, what does it actually mean to be alone? So today I'm just literally going to talk about the difference between isolation and loneliness and the kind of philosophical approach to the two ideas, kind of looking at how the Stoics and, the existentialists would have handled this kind of concept. So loneliness is the depressing feeling of being alone, whilst isolation is being alone. So loneliness is more of a mental feeling, whereas isolation is something physical. So when we look at loneliness, you can kind of assume that it is separate from isolation, because with loneliness, it's more of a physical feeling, it's a mental state. So it's something that can be overcome. If you look at the actual statistics for loneliness in the UK, 60% of 18 to 34-year-olds are some of the loneliest people there are. Loneliness is a killer. It can cause early death, an increase in heart disease, and it's known as chronic loneliness. You can almost say loneliness is a natural part of living. The idea of being alone can relate to prehistoric times. So when we were supposed to be hunter-gatherers, we were supposed to help each other. We hunted in packs to, hunt these huge animals that were living around at the time when we were living. The idea of not being alone and having a connection was almost as important as drinking water. If you didn't have a pack or someone to survive with, you would most likely die. The main idea behind this lonely feeling as well is the wanting or need to connect. So if we go back to this analogy of water and thirst, if you give someone a bottle of Coke when they're thirsty, it's not going to fulfill that need, right? If you give someone water, however, that should quench the thirst. The same kind of idea with connection, right? If you make a false connection and you're just kind of surrounding yourself with people without actually feeling, it's not going to fulfill that idea of loneliness. So instead of trying to almost force this idea of having to be around people and surround yourself with people, instead you can kind of look at loneliness as it being a part of life. I mean, we have this idea that we are born alone and we also die alone. Nobody will ever be inside your head or understand exactly what you're feeling or what you've gone through in life. What we tend to do as people is to look for connections. We try to express ourselves and our inner voices with art, movies, all these sorts of creative expressions in order to show other people what we're thinking. So in fact, without loneliness, there would be no need to show other people what's going on inside us, right? If somebody knew how I felt, why would I need to express it in writing or in a painting or any of that kind of thing? There's almost a sort of beauty in feeling lonely. So now we've looked at mentally feeling lonely, we can look at the physical loneliness, so isolation. There was a psychological study where a person was given a button, and when they touched this button, it gave them a really painful electric shock. When they were asked if they would touch that button again, they said absolutely no, they wouldn't put themselves through that pain ever again, right? So what the psychologists did next was they put this person in a room alone with the box, with no concept of time. There was no clock. It was just them with a chair and a box on the table, where they were told, if you press this button again, it will electrify you. Literally 10 minutes into the experiment, this person pressed that button and they got the shock and they felt the pain again. Another hour went by and they pressed the button again and it gave them a shock. So what this experiment proved is that the human mind requires stimulus. The problem with isolation is boredom. When Nelson Mandela was imprisoned for 27 years, he practiced a philosophical concept called stoicism. He sat there and he thought about everything that went on in his life, and he didn't choose to accept this bad thing that happened, but instead he chose to look at his situation and almost make the most of it. And by doing this, when he came out of prison, he was able to help other people and to lead people. So to sum that up, stoicism is the idea that we don't just accept that bad things won't happen, but we accept that bad things are just a part of life, and we are far more capable of living through these bad things than we think we are. So it is in our interest to try a new hobby or a new skill, even downloading a new app. This pandemic, although is a bad situation for a lot of us, it's, if we practice this kind of idea of stoicism, it doesn't have to be so bad. Thank you guys so much for all your love, your support. I appreciate you guys so much for coming in and tuning in every week. If you didn't see it earlier, I had an Instagram live this Sunday. I think it's still on my story tonight. So if you guys want to click it and check it out, that would be great. Some people suggesting that I might do it a regular thing. This might be a regular Sunday thing, so you never know. But yeah, like, share, subscribe. I appreciate all your support. I love you guys so much. So thanks.